So, dear students, let us start the discussion on 02nd February 2016 newspaper. The first is related to the Rohit Vemula's death and also casteism in the higher universities, human dignity. Now, if you see the unfolding of events at the Hyderabad Central University, there is a clear involvement of Ministry of Human Resources and the branding of Ambedkar Students Association as anti-national on recommendation of Ministry of Labour, Mr. Dattatreya, Minister for Labour. So in this context, the article analyzes in the midst of the casteism that is present in the highest intellectual spaces, how a country has to progress. Now in this case, he has taken the examples of the plays of Rabindranath Tagore to drive his point. So the purpose of the university education, it is to assure the dignity of the individual, and it is the highest obligation of these universities is to maintain critical thinking and intellectuality, and they have to tell what is good and bad to the nation and what is right to the nation. So the universities, they shall be the intellectual spaces which can question the status quoism and can redefine what constitutes to be the right to the country. Further going into this, the dissent in any country, if you talk about after capital punishment to Mr. Memon, there were dissents in the Hyderabad Central Universities. Finally, it has led to the suspension of 4 students. So in this case, the dissent of any student must be heard. In a democracy, dissent has a particular value. So if not, it leads to McCarthyism. The McCarthyism, it means suppression of the dissent with unreasonable power. Senator McCarthy. So this particular thing has to be avoided. For this, we shall respect the dissent and value the dissent. And universities, this dissent has to be given a special space because these are the intellectual spaces of change. Next, going to the One Belt, One Road initiative. India has to see it as an opportunity or a threat is the question. Now, it has changed the way how diplomacy is conducted. Now, this diplomacy can be described as an entity diplomacy. So, the China is projecting as the agenda for the development of Asia as a whole. It means the One Belt, One Road initiative is not for the China alone. It is to bring in togetherness of Asia as a continent. So that's why the continentalism is becoming revived. And we are talking about one economic continent today because of the One Belt, One Road initiative. And the second thing is, One Belt, One Road initiative, is it a Chinese scheme? As like the United States Marshall Plan, is this a Chinese scheme is the question. So in this case, the China has clarified that it is not just the Chinese scheme. Initially it was a Belt and Road initiative. Now the term introduced is One Belt and One Road initiative. So that it is an inclusive economic project of the entire Asia. So development of Asia Infrastructure Bank, Investment Bank, New Development Bank, they prove this. The next third thing is the mutually beneficial swap. That is, India protects the Chinese interests in the Indian Ocean region and China protects the Indian interests in the East China Sea and South China Sea. So this is what is the mutual swap from the Chinese interest and Indian interest. The China is trying to push its political agenda through its economic might. And throughout this One Belt, One Road initiative, there is a huge secrecy involved. And finally, One Belt, One Road initiative, it goes through the POK. And how can India accept this initiative going through POK, Gilgit-Baltistan region, without the proper approval of India? So in this case, what is the way out for India with regard to One Belt, One Road initiative? It has to participate for a limited period of time, the One Belt, One Road initiative. As like America's trade and economic architecture led to the development of China, the Chinese infrastructure can lead to the development of India. And also, the China can leverage its muscle to silence the Pakistan with regard to its terror activities. So it can be seen as a good opportunity for India to participate in the change. Next is towards a law on euthanasia. The courts in India recognizes the passive euthanasia in Aruna Shanbhog case. In this case, across the West, the concept that is very much famous is called living will. A person, while he is active in his life, he will make a living will how the doctors has to treat him at the end. So in this concept of living will also shall enter into India. The Supreme Court, while giving the Aruna Shanbhog case the passive euthanasia, it has provided for certain landmarks, certain safeguards. So any passive euthanasia need to be ordered by a high court, not below that any court. Now it is the time. The right to dignity or the right to life consists of right to life with dignity or not. The right to life with dignity consists of right to death with dignity or not. These are the questions before the court now. However, the legal experts believe that the law can be misused if it is allowed for the active euthanasia. So whatever be the scope of the law, having the law is the first remark over here with regard to euthanasia. And coming to LGBT rights, already I have discussed this LGBT rights in detail in the yesterday's video. You can go through that particular yesterday's video, how the things have evolved. Now going further, but here, any person's human dignity has to be protected. The court's the highest role or permanent role is to protect this dignity. And next is, the Menaka Gandhi, she has brought an interesting proposal with regard to the sex determination in India. It is not possible to monitor every ultrasound expert in India. So let us do the fetal test for everyone and register that so that we can track the fetal abortions in India. Next, going to the inverted duty structure. Now what does that mean? When the cost of the imports, for example, if you are importing XYZ to manufacture A, if this finished good A is imported and the customs duty on the import of A and the custom duty combined on the import of XYZ is greater than A, then the good will be better to be imported because it gives the greater profit to the traders. So the input cost is greater than the output cost. Due to the tariff structures, we call it as the inverted duty structure. And the next is Myanmar. We know that the Myanmar elections were over and Aung San Suu Kyi has got the highest majority. So, we know that even today the 25% of the seats that belong to the military and the 75% of the seats are actually belong to the elected people. So in these circumstances, how these relationships between elected government, military, they move forward is a major question. The Aung San Suu Kyi, though elected as with a huge majority, she cannot become the president because of the constitutional situation in Myanmar. According to that, a person who married to a foreign national and has children with foreign identities, they cannot become the presidents. Now, the Supreme Court recalls notice to governor. So, Article 361 subclause 1 of the Constitution prohibits or else it protects the president and governor from any legal action. So, the Supreme Court cannot issue the notices because they have this legal immunity. So, in this case, the Supreme Court has admitted its mistake and it has withdrew its the particular notices. So that is what is the important article in discussion for today. The next is the Trans-Pacific Fact. You know that the WTO negotiations are not moving forward and many of the countries, they are forming their own regional blocs. The TPP is America-led, RCEP China-led, and also we have this particular Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership.